Luca back with another video, and I'm gonna jump straight into this video topic today that I'm gonna be talking about hating and the next man. Now that's quite like a general sort of saying, like, don't hate on the next man. But what I mean by that really is when somebody has something that you don't, like if someone's got a nicer car than you and you're in the passenger seat and you're giving them side eyes because they're going fast and they're taking off, it's like you're jealous. You're finding yourself getting jealous about how they've got what you want and you can't have it. And the same can go with, like, say if a guy can chat to girls and then you find it difficult, you then look at that guy funny, or you look at that guy in a way where you want to bring him down a bit. And it could be various other things like that. Those two examples. But all I want to say about that is a very common unconscious / subconscious pattern of behavior in people now, especially nowadays with all the competition of status and social proof and stuff like that. So that's very prominent in our society nowadays, and I think it's just so tragic because, like, we want to be boosting each other up. We don't want to be bringing each other down to a level where we can then either make ourselves feel better about ourselves, or bring that person down so we have less competition. And I think it's a really tragic thing because I experienced it. I've experienced it. I can notice myself doing it because I'm a conscious person. I'm aware. I'm self-aware. I know when something like that, when a negative thought pattern in my head arises, and I always snap it. I'm like, right, you're doing that thing, don't do that, that's wrong. Like, and because people aren't conscious on the whole, people just go with the emotion and the thoughts of it, and it's really negative, and it's bad, and it tarnishes your relationships with people because someone's always going to have something better going on for themselves than you do, depending on what it is. But you just got to learn from them. You got to see them as like a tool, where you don't see them as something you can get something from. Just see them as a person living their own life, struggling, getting through life as it is hard. Rather than, oh, this person's doing better than me. If I bring them down, I can then feel better about myself, and then I can have somebody to condemn, and things like that. Like, it's really quite malicious. So we've got to remember, if you ever catch yourself thinking that way, when that person isn't being a dick, or that person isn't being any sort of like bad, if they're being bad, if they're being a bad person, like they're being disrespectful, calling people certain names, saying certain things that are just outright obnoxious and not acceptable, you have a right to sort of judge that person. But when it's simply because they have something that you deep down lust for, you cannot judge somebody. You cannot judge and want to bring that person down because they have what you don't. Like that is a toxic behavioral trait. And as people, we got to be conscious of the fact that that can arise out of our consciousness when it comes to social situations and friends and maybe family. And it's super important to be conscious of these things, because then you can tackle them head on. You don't have to sort of be the backseat passenger. You can more be the driver. And the reason I talk about this is because it can make you feel really shit about yourself being on the receiving end of it. Because it's like, if you're just being yourself and people around you are wanting to bring you down because you might have something in you that they don't, and they're deep down lust for, it's like, what the fuck? What do I have to do? And I'm saying that's from my experience. Like, I genuinely still experience that today. And I see people around me all the time that they have traits and materialistic items that I want, but I'm not going to bring them down and try to supersede them. Like, we need to remember that everybody is very similar in the sense that we all have the same palette of emotions, and we must share that common humanity and not bring each other down just because we share different traits. So we need to remember that and take that into consideration, and catch yourself doing it if you ever find yourself doing it. And if you find people doing it to you, you need to let go of those people and create a vast amount of distance between you guys to make it clear that you cannot behave like that around me just because of out of spite. And if that behavior continues, then you know that person isn't meant to be in your life, clearly, because they're showing you that. And you know, I think this is a really important subject because it's quite common. You know, it happens generally. It's more common now with social media and stuff. You know, always in competition with each other, always trying to be the best, always trying to look the best, always trying to act the best, always trying to do this, that, have the best car, have the best clothes. You know, you name it, People are always trying to outdo each other, and the more we do that, the more we are always in competition and not just settling for what we have. I'm not saying you should be complacent and settle, but the more we strive to outdo one another, the more fragile we become in ourselves, because the competition should be with ourself, not with anybody else, unless that person is in a competition with you in actuality, not in like theory, you know. So I'm going to give a clear example. Actually, no, I'm not. I think I've made it clear. But what I want to say is, at the end of the day, if you are that person, you need to become conscious of when you start to pick up on those traits inside your head in the moment. You know, it could be on a night out, could be on your day job, something like that. And if you are on the receiving end, remember that it's not your fault. Keep doing what you're doing if you're doing the right thing. And you know, these people, you know, it mainly happens with people in adolescence, I guess, and younger people who are slightly more vulnerable and susceptible to insecurity. But I'm thinking, you know, we need to express our indifference and embrace one another, not just constantly be in competition and fighting over who's got what and who's doing this and that better. You know, come together. Don't try and outdo each other constantly, unless it's a positive thing. And oh man, we just need to come together, because you know, fabric of society is a very thin fabric, and the more we play with it and pick at it, you know, the more delicate and ruptured it becomes. So you know, we must take care of each other and not being in this malicious sort of cyclical, circuitous sort of argumentative state with one another. So you know, peace and love, man. Stay free, stay safe, and love one another, man. Embrace people. Everyone's beautiful, man. Everyone's got their own story. Everybody's interesting. You should look into somebody's eyes and think they're intriguing, because you know they've lived a whole other life to you, and you have the opportunity to discover what that is through talk, through communication. So instead of thinking, oh, that person looks better than me, or that person looks better in those type of clothes than me, I'm gonna sort of act funny around them. So